the end of July garden. We have a visitor, tiger swallowtail. He's enjoying the zinnias. Pretty. Very pretty. See ya. So this is pak choy and mizuna. So the mizuna is a kind of lettuce that doesn't bolt quickly, so it's nice this time of year. Then we have beautiful parsley, tons of green beans. These are dragon tongue beans, really good beans. This one's ready to harvest. They're like a yellow wax bean combo. They're really nice. They are sweet and crisp once you cook them. And this is my lettuce going to seed. So when you let it go to seed, you wait for this. It flowers like that. And you wait for this little puff. It tells you that it's dried out. And then you get these. So I'll show you what the seeds look like. Lettuce seeds. So this is some lettuce seed. So you can take it and just sprinkle it in that garden. Or you can gather it, which I'm going to gather a lot of it, make some envelopes and give them to friends. So that's my lettuce going to seed. This is a lime blush zinnia. I don't know if you can see the color. It's unique. Then we have a calendula that the sweat bees love. So there's even a sweat bee in the unopened blossom. I'll pull out a little bit so you can see it. I'm going to go in here, and yesterday there was a swallowtail, and he's right down, where is he? I know he's in there. Can you see him? Yeah, right in the middle. There he is. There's our little caterpillar right there. That's his face. So that's dill. And there's more beans with flowers. That's a ground cherry that just seeded itself. This is a stevia. You could dry the leaves and use them like a sweetener. That's what I'm going to do with them. Tons of bush beans in here. Tons of zinnias, attracting the tiger swallowtail, even in the wind. It's a brave soul. And hold on. Whoa! Hold on, butterfly, hold on. There's lots of flowers here for him, you can see. Lots of zinnias this year. Best year ever for zinnia. And a coneflower, they like them too. And there's some nasturtium. And there's 4 o'clocks. This is usually my lettuce bed, but everything bolted, so I had to take the lettuce out. I'm letting the dill go to seed here. I'll gather the seed and plant more of it. Another, there's 2 swallowtails. Look at this. Never saw so many. Love it. Love it. So this is a squash. This squash has a female flower ready to open down there with a squash on it. Unfortunately, this squash has fallen victim to the squash borer. That's what a squash borer does. The adult lays their eggs, which are in the soil. They climb up, they make a hole, an entry hole in your stalk, and then they start to eat out. So I could cut up to here and probably dig out the borer and save the plant if I wanted to try. But at this point, it's kind of, well, I mean, it may be worth a try. I'm going to probably do that today. I'm going to put a little, if I can't get the borer itself, I can put BT in there. I could even try a little neem oil, but I'm not usually one to use any kind of things in the garden if I don't have to. If I can get the squash borer out on my own, I'll be happy. More bush beans. Here's a coreopsis group right here. So coreopsis also gets lots of sweat bees. More bush beans. They're doing really well. They don't look great over here because the bugs got them, but they're still putting out a lot of beans, so that's good. And we have our nice cherry tomatoes. I think I've got one I can harvest right now. They're really nice. That's really nice. There's hundreds of them. Hundreds of them coming ripe. Still waiting for my larger beef nasters to start ripening, but that'll happen as things start to, I just dropped my tomato, sorry. As the weather starts to get really hot and dry, they start to ripen, so everything in their own time. These are scarlet runner bean pods, and I'm letting them go to seed so I can gather the seeds for next year. They weren't really that good of eating. If you notice how large the pod is, it's kind of tough, and you got to cook it a long time. It's not that enjoyable, but the scarlet dried beans can also be cooked and eaten if you cook them for a long time. They're safe to eat, but it's a pretty plant, and it's a perennial. In some cases it'll come back. I just happen to like the flower so much and how strong the vine grows. It grew up this arbor pretty quickly. So that's that bed. And I've got flowers on both ends to attract not only the pollinators, but get the pests away from the main crop. So you'll have borage. This is a little borage flower right here. Very edible, and the bees really like them. So all the bees, all the types of bees, bumblebees and others. That's asparagus floating in the wind there. Really pretty. This is Rebecca Herda, or Brown-Eyed Susan. It's a native one. Very good grower. There's more borage down there. So that's the tomato, and this over here is a clematis montana. What a prolific one. This bed's a little bit of a mess. I got a lot of nasturtium. We eat the flowers. You can eat the flowers, the leaves, and even the, you can pickle all of it, and even the seeds. It's one of my favorite foods in the garden. This is the asparagus, and the wind's beating that up a little, so I put a little cage around it to keep it from intermingling with my bush beans. The bush beans, I have quite a few different varieties, and then the pole beans, I have a few varieties. These are cannellini beans, the white cannellini beans. That's what this is, this whole vine, and more of the scarlet runners. So the scarlet runner is taken over a lot of real estate this year. This was a late growth squash. This is my rampicanti. Guiding it up the trellis by using these little clips. So these clips are great. You can get them just about anywhere. They will help you to protect your plants. See how nice that goes on? And now the squash will go a little closer because it's starting to hold on to this little coneflower here. But I really don't want it moving over because there's a giant hyssop, or hyssop. Everybody says it different. Right there. And then it'll grow in there, and I'll never get my rampicanti. So it's growing up the arbor that way. Let me come over here, and here's another batch of green beans. These are pole beans, and they're going to go up this arbor. So that's a next crop. I did them in waves. There's some soybeans. Not doing quite as well as the soybeans that I planted over here, which is interesting. These soybeans are doing really well. Combination of different sun and moisture. So they are semi-shaded by this pretty large, what was supposed to be a bush bean, turned into a pole bean variety, has not had any flowers yet. And I don't know if that's because it had a trellis to grow on, but it gave a little shade to the soybeans, so I find that interesting. There's a cucumber that didn't do so hot. Not always successful. There's some beets. The beets are doing really well. And then under here, from the shade of the ground cherries or the beans, is rosemary. I've got some rosemary here. And then we've got a beautiful patchouli that seems to like the shade. The leaves have doubled in size in the shade. So I will grow that in the shade next time. But the leaves have that beautiful patchouli scent. We have more nasturtium, more ground cherry, more bush bean. This is a little volunteer tomato that kind of found its way in here. It's a little sunrise garden tomato. If I get any late season ones, that'd be great. If not, it's okay. This one is, I think, a yellow variety, larger slicing tomato. That'll start ripening soon. And then I have more ground cherry, more swamp milkweed that I do have to relocate. Actually, this looks like common milkweed to me. It doesn't look like swamp milkweed, but I have to relocate it either way. It's in the wrong spot. And then there's a common little skipper enjoying the comfrey. Comfrey is a bumblebee's favorite. And then they come over here, other side of this bed. Oh, another, oh, just a little green. Might give that another day. This one's, oh, that one came off nice. Yeah, it has a little green too. I might wait, put it on the windowsill. But at least I got it for the critters did. But that's all starting to ripen pretty rapidly. And it's got quite a few tomatoes on it. Quite a few. And then this is the other side of that bed. I've got the some turnips going to seed, as well as a turnip developing down there inside the, you can see it under the ground there. These are radishes going to seed. The pods were edible, but they're a little tough now, so I'm letting them seed. Those are some beets and some Swiss chard, some pink Swiss chard. That's pretty much the garden right now. I mean, there is the other side. I have time to walk over there. This is the semi-independent bed. It gets no irrigation, has to survive on its own. So we've got some blueberries that are doing okay. And we've got some golden Alexander, which is a native plant. Got some Mexican sunflowers for the pollinators. That's a late season bloom. Same with this evening primrose. That should start blooming soon. Aster blooming soon. Some Joe Pye weed. That's a tub I'm going to turn upside down and make a little bog. Here's some short-toothed mountain mint. You can see the leaf cutter bee is really enjoying the flowers on that. And we come over here. We've got a nice healthy rhubarb. The midday sun makes it droop a little bit, even if it is well watered. It rained last night finally for a little bit, but it's drooping. So I'm going to let that rest a little. More ground cherries, ground cherries, ground cherries, and ground cherries. I have two varieties. One from my colleague at work, and one that reseeded itself and is a monster. There's that beautiful leek blossom. I'm letting it go to seed so I can gather more seed. I really like this leek, but you can see how large it is. There's my hand. It is a big flower, and I didn't stake it. It's doing fine on its own. These are what they call walking or Egyptian onions. You can eat this little bulblet. and the main bulb stays in the ground, and its perennials come back, and it'll send up these shoots. So you can plant these little bulblets, or you can eat them, and they taste like the onion. So there's a ground cherry that's ready to drop. It's ripe. These are some red onions. Went to seed. Same reason, I wanted to gather some of the seeds. And then this one I thought was my bunching onions, but it's not my scallions. So the shape of the stem, or the main bunch of it, is a little different. And we have a beautiful zinnias. So pretty. Popular with the pollinators, so waiting in line to get in. And this is one of my favorites this year. Monarda punctata. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's also called horse mint, and it's an annual. And as you can see, the wasps really like it. It's a native plant, so it invites the native insects, native bugs, native wasps. So I'm really happy about that. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that's the garden, end of July.